manager. So my story, sharing my story would kind of give, especially for those of us that might just be starting out in the profession. Uh, so I would say I'm not here to come across as being all-knowing. I'm just going to share my experiences and my story as well, propose some of the things I see, some of the mistakes I do see, some young professionals make, some even more experienced people make, that sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't get it as they should. Some underutilize their potential. So, how did I even start my career? Let's start from there. I I graduated, had my National Youth Service Corps, where I taught bookkeeping and accounting at a secondary school level, and then came into Lagos State at the time with a young second class upper accounting graduate with all the dreams of becoming a big four accountant. Yeah, the KPMGs, the Deloittes, the Ernst and Youngs, and all that. And I found myself writing a lot of tests, aptitude tests here and there. I ended up not getting into the big four as I dreamt at the time. And after like 6 months of joblessness in Lagos, looking around for jobs, I told myself, hey, you can't be killing your time waiting on the big fours. What do? You need to start somewhere. I found myself targeting the smaller audit firms. Along the line, a firm recruited me for a small engineering company to come work as an accounts and admin officer. I got into the place and found myself working there for 6 months, but I got limited exposure to the real accounting I was striving to get. And but I was there. So that period there taught me something, but I'll hit on that later. From there, I moved to join the financial services. I joined the FBN Microfinance Bank, which was a subsidiary of First Bank. At the time, it was just starting out, so I was privy to work with the head of operations as well as the head of credits. So I had myself reporting to two major units. So I put my head down, diligently reported to these vastly experienced managers. These two men were extremely experienced in every aspect of what I was hoping to gain. So in like 2 years, 9 months, I was able to learn so much about credits. I was able to learn so much about domestic banking, all aspects of banking. I was working because I was working with these two people. I was able to, they loaded so much, they poured so much into me at the time. But one thing I never did at the time, which till date I never do, is complain. I wasn't complaining. They felt very comfortable to teach me. They were training me on the job. They were teaching me. And I've kept that attitude to date. From there, after I worked for like 2 years, 9 months, took myself to a completely different industry, which was the maritime industry. Because of my stint in banking and my background as an accounting graduate, I got a role of I applied for the role of a credit receivable coordinator, got interviewed. They found me more suitable to be a treasury accountant. That's how I found myself in a completely different industry. Had to join and start learning on the job with support from the management, of course, but that was completely different from what I had been doing for like 2 years plus. And there I am, came into the job, met a lot of backlog of unreconciled accounts and everything. Had to be working. At that time, I was taking my professional exams. So I had to be working under intense pressure in the office I had to equally be doing my weekend tutorials every Saturday and Sunday. For those who are based out of Lagos, you know Wise Associates. I trained for my ICANN exams from Wise. So you know how long the classes could be, which is 8 in the morning till 9 p.m. every day with just an hour break. Sometimes I have to switch classes to go do some work over the weekend, come back to class. That was my life for like 2 years. Got certified there, stayed for 5 years in maritime. And from there, I moved to Wakana, where I joined as a treasury lead, just had a 9 month stint. And then what happened? A previous supervisor in one of my jobs calls me to say, hey, I'm looking for a talent for a chief accountant role. Would you be interested to put in for us to look at your profile alongside other people? Yes, boss. I put in, got tested, got interviewed, got the role. But why did he call me? Why did he draw that job to my attention at the time? Why did he from afar perceive that I'll be a good fit to come head his accounting team? That's an important thing we have to keep in mind here. Um, when you talk of the mindset and the attitudes and the skills towards what it takes to be a 21st century accountant. I worked there for immediately I joined it there. This was in the oil and gas, but waste management at this time. No more maritime logistics. It now became waste management, which was completely learning something entirely new again. Got there, started learning terminologies like what it skips, drilling operations, drilling fluids, and a whole lot of technicalities that even so many oil and gas engineers don't know because it's so diverse, it's so broad, the industry. I stayed there. I haven't joined the company less than 6 months down the line. The person who got my attention and brought me to the company as a CFO himself left the job. I kind of started functioning from a chief accountant perspective and from an acting CFO perspective. Or that was not the preparation I came with, but I had to do that. Started getting involved with loan fund structure discussions with banks, doing fundraising, doing high level and strategic reporting, helping with software implementations, and a whole lot of things at the same time. After 2 years, I moved again to another company, PS Offshore, where I stayed for 4 years as the chief accountant with very complex reporting lines where I had some my reporting bosses were based out of Monaco. I was based in Nigeria. I had some team reporting to me from Philippines. I had some people working with in Monaco, all over the place. That was the structure. So what did I need to do here? I was working with a lot of nationalities. I've worked with a lot of nationalities. In this job, imagine you are working with bosses who are on different time zones. You are supervising a group of persons who are like 7 hours ahead of your time. So they have to know what they need to do before you even wake up and get to work. But there are different cultures. So all of these things, there are things that I'm going to hit on. Why do I have to tell all these stories? There are things that I'm going to highlight later as things you need to have in your arsenal in surviving for the 21st century as an accountant, as those who would choose to not necessarily stay in accounting, but maybe move into mainstream finance, or to some extent even leverage their ways into core technology. Because as an accountant with your basic training, you have a lot of pathways ahead of you to strive, to survive, to grow. So oftentimes we limit ourselves because of what we don't know. And well, it's if you are in that box, what you don't know, you don't know. You cannot offer what you don't have, right? So it's just that. So that I was there and I spent about 4 years, then found myself coming to Canada to study information technology, business analysis at a postgraduate level, and realized that we do a lot of things as accountants that cut across so many aspects of project management, change management, which are major areas today, business restructuring, and a whole lot without knowing this is what we do. I came, took that course, and I'm going to propose some of these things later down the line as things you can use to build yourself up and see that opportunities are there so much for you as accountants, or we as accountants in this instance, that oftentimes we just don't know they exist, but they do, they exist. So pardon me if you don't see slides, but as we speak, I'm going to leave room. Paul, you decide how you want to do it. If you would like us to wait till the end before questions, or questions can go along, because I would like it to be as interactive as possible so that people don't get bored listening to only my voice. Yeah. So Paul?
Yes, so you can go ahead as you want it to be
Yeah.
is fine.
Yeah, I would like people to stop me as we go. Let me not just be doing all the talking to bore people. Like, it shouldn't be a one-way street. It's not a class. It's more
Yeah, it's
of
fine. It's fine.
me talking, we talking as colleagues. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. So I'm going to talk about the main attitudes you need as a 21st century accountant today, because so much is going on today. One of the main things I like talking about is the growth mindset and the adaptability. We, I don't know if the larger percentage that is registered is uh is is a core of accountants trained just from the Nigerian educational system or accounting system. So I'll just for now make this reference to us there. But if you happen to be from outside Nigeria, it's good. But sometimes I feel we lack the right mentorship right from the school stage. So we school without the mindset to be adaptable and grow and be that growth mindset is missing. So we happen to look at it more from a point of, oh, opportunities are not there, or this is what I was taught. That's what I know. A lot of people left school at a point when the international financial reporting standards were not there. US had its own thing. The US gap is there. Nigeria has the N gap, and different countries had everything. But the question I'll ask you, all of us here, is since when you left school, a lot has changed. How much are you changing with it? Accounting is really growing. So much is going on. How much do you get involved with developing yourself? Some of us left school, we did not have no, most of the schools never exposed us to any of the accounting softwares. We're still there waiting for when we would ever know accounting softwares. But how much are we growing to catch up with these things? So much is going on there. Are we ready to evolve, grow, and learn like that? For instance, we had Eli Professionals training people as recent as 2 weeks ago on how to use Sage and how to use QuickBooks. Trust me, in North America, QuickBooks is such a big deal. QuickBooks, Zoho, Zero, QuickBooks, Zoho, Sage 50, because they have a very robust middle and small and medium scale enterprises over here. They don't play with QuickBooks. QuickBooks is one of the biggest thing. How much are you equipping yourself? Do you have to wait till you lose out on job opportunities over and over and over before you walk in the some as a fresher, if you are a fresher here, no one is taking you on the job and expecting you to be that professional, that expert. But give what I always look out for is give me something to build on. So how much are you ready to grow? The next question is, what's the level of your intellectual curiosity? For those of us who are practicing as accountants here today, do we ever bother knowing the why behind our numbers? Oftentimes, if the CFO in any organization,
Okay.
okay, if a CFO in the organization says, oh, we cannot make any salary increment, and the decision is communicated down here. Sometimes even we, the accountants, tend to join the entire staff strength to go protesting or carrying placards. Do we know the why? Do we know the how? So that curiosity to know, to understand your numbers, to not just say that, oh, your company has made they've just raised an invoice of $5 million. So the company has $5 million and ignore that there's a cost of generating that $5 million. That thought process to go deep down to all these things, the why and all that is something we have to embrace now. If you've not been one of those accountants that seeks to understand the why things are being decided like the way they are, you have to get involved with you have to develop that intellectual curiosity to know why things are happening this way, why we need this kind of technology, why we need to have people working hybrid, why we cannot allow some people work hybrid. Everything, there's a why to everything as an accountant. So if you are practicing as an accountant, or if you're hoping to practice as one, if you are not yet practicing, that curiosity has to become a part of you. It's very important. So you don't just be the one that yaps every time conversations are going on in the company, you too are part of it. No, the people who talk the least in any company happen to be accountants. They talk really little because of how much they happen to know. Now, when you look at are you having an attitude that you are just not a number cruncher? You are a client-centric accountant. That's very important. That's an attitude you have to embrace. You are not just a data. If you are not, as an accountant, you are not a data clerk. If you've been thinking your job is to collect invoices or collect working sheets, data sheets or time sheets from operations people and just impute into the computer and produce an invoice, change that mindset. You have to be the 21st century accountant today. You have to be thinking as a client-centric staff who happens to be working in the finance or accounting department. Every time you open your mouth to speak to a client, mind you, if things are going on between the company and suppliers, the only person that can douse tension or make suppliers really relaxed is that accountant. If you step forward and interact with suppliers of any company or any vendors, your word carries a lot of weight. So you have to start looking at yourself as that customer service person who understands the business in total so that everything you speak about carries a lot of weight. You cannot just be that accountant whose job is you wait till your CEO pushes something. Take this one, write this check. You take it, write the check, and it ends there. No, your job today has to go deeper than that. Next thing is, are you a client? Are you a critical thinker? Are you a problem solver? You might be at an operational stage in your accounting level, in your accounting practice today. You can, as even at the junior level, you might walk into your CEO's office and he turns around and just asks you a question. based on his expectation as a finance person, you should give him a perspective. Something is going on in the industry. You walk into the CEO's office and he just asks you a question like that. And then he's not asking that question because he likes asking questions, but he's kind of looking for you to solve a problem for him. Your input there might be a big deal for him to solve a lot. When you get to the higher level, there are so many times where CEOs are having negotiations and you walk into the room and tell the CEO, whisper to him, no, don't. I don't think so. I don't think that's a good choice. You have to be that critical thinker who has connected operations, numbers, and everything to solve a problem. You don't just be thinking of how to do data entry and it ends. Then my own is my job. They paid me to resume by 8 and close at 4:30 or 8 and close at 5. Nothing else. Do data entry year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Never solving a problem. Well, you're hurting your career. The next question is, how do you collaborate with your fellow team members? So many of us, the most quiet unit in any company I've been to is always that department, accounting department. That's where you had, if a pin drops, you hear. They're always putting numbers. People go for lunch, they hardly leave their desk to go for lunch. They're just there, quiet, quiet, quiet. Sometimes they are sitting next door to marketing. You will never see so many of us even cross the hallway into the marketing department to like, hey, guys, what's going on here? Or these guys are marketing guys are making a field trip to go convince a new client. If you are a chance, why not get involved with working, doing some run these things with them as much as you can. Collaborate with different units. IT department is setting up so many systems. You have to kind of get involved in collaboration with them in how what they are setting up will hurt finance or hurt the operations or bigger picture. Support them. They don't make mistakes, get to a point where they're having to import expatriates to come and fix them. When it's something you could have collaborated. Marketing departments are making tenders. They are making the wrong assumptions around numbers, or they're making the wrong assumptions around taxes, or they're making assumptions but they're ignoring tax developments. You can step in there. Hey, the new tax law has just been signed. Did you factor it in your pricing? Because if you price like this and keep your margins at this, by the time who will bear the withholding tax implications, who will bear VAT implications, that kind of collaboration will make them shine, you equally shines. So those are things that we have to get involved. But the question I'll ask again is, what kind of skills are we building today? Okay, accountant, the last time you paid attention to your accounting standards, more, I think at the time maybe people were making reference to uh you hear you've gone into a room. I've seen a lot of very solid accountants who are still making references to some terms that IFRS 15 has already overtaken. They are not yet abreast of how IFRS 15 has come to handle their revenue recognitions. Uh, all kinds of standards are coming on board every day. How well are you catching up with these things? For every domain you are, how well are you catching up with it? When you look at like IFRS and look at US GAAP, for instance, you can sometimes see they make reference to their standards. They can make reference to 605 here, which happens to be US is making reference to 605. US and Canada is making reference to 605. It's the same 605 that you are calling it as IFRS 15 in the other parts of the world. How well are you adapting to all these standards? As things are coming on, 18 is out, insurance is in IFRS 18, insurance people, if you are in the domain If you are in insurance, how well are you keeping track of all those technical accounting jargons? But one thing I must say is this. I've sat to interview a lot of young accountants looking for something to just hire them. And oftentimes I see young accountants who just left school, they don't understand the basic debit and credit. No matter what level you work, you see that revenue has to be a credit balance. Uh, Assets, debit balance. Liability, credit balance. Expense, debit balance. That concept is the bedrock of accounting to whatever level you get to. So if you miss that fundamental, what are you talking about, really? Oh, you are relying on software. When the software gives you a wrong trial balance, it's because you understand debit and credit that you can look at a trial balance extract and say, hey, this software is malfunctioning, or it's not giving me what I want to see. Or you can look at the trial balance and say, hey, why is a tax liability account in debit? Your CEO is not going to walk into a meeting and then someone tells him in that meeting that, hey, your trial balance is not balanced. Do you know who's getting the sack? You. He needs you to be his eyes. It starts from the junior level, middle level, senior level. Directors of finance a lot of times are not even accountants. Either they are seasoned bankers or just very experienced people out there. They have you, the chief accountant, or financial controller, whatever title you have, to crunch those numbers, do a snapshot, and give them to make strategic decisions with them. So if you must necessarily, you most of the CFOs you see, directors of finance, majority are not day-to-day accountants who grew through the system to the top. They came from some backgrounds, went to a Harvard Business School or one executive business schools. And because of their experience, their job is to do strategy based on your numbers. They are not really into day-to-day crunching of numbers. You crunch the numbers, give them a snapshot, they make decisions. Hire this number, fire this number, expand to this number of branches, and all that. How well are you preparing yourself with that? How well are you getting the technical accounting proficiency? You never can stop reading, you never can stop educating yourself, never can stop consulting materials. No matter how experienced you are always still calling other accountants. Hey, I've run into this scenario today. How do you manage it in your own company? This, but at least you have a basics. How well do you have that? That's a skill. You need the accounting skill, the basic skills. Some of us have stopped reading. Some of us left school, time has passed. We've not upgraded our knowledge. We're not paying attention to anything technical going on, thinking software has come. And that's why when they tell us immediately that AI has come to take our jobs, we go into a panic mode and we panic and go into overdrive of anxiety. AI has come to make your life easier as an accountant. If you know, you know. It's going to take out some people, but equally it's going to still need you. How well do you know? How are you positioning yourself? What skill are you getting? Like, I remember my last job in my okay, when I was a chief accountant for Montego Upstream, I walked into a room and my CEO just asked me to give him he was always expecting me to give him the management account for him to see on monthly basis. And I gave him a monthly account that was unnecessarily long with all those lengthy flow of accounts from revenue, expense, gross profit, all those things. That's not what the man was looking for. You needed a snapshot. Snapshot by snapshot, he just wants you to give him something abridged. Boom, this is revenue, expense, profit, loss, EBITDA, and all, boom, just something basic. Do a year-on-year comparison. So he's a very busy man. He doesn't have time to sit and be looking through all those things. No, when he needs that, he can always reach out. Hey, give me the details. Why is our staff salary suddenly so high? Or why is our operating expense so high? That's when you go into the details. The first time I gave him, he said, "No, Samson, this is too big. I mean, I don't want to say all this. Can you give me something I can understand?" I went back. I just gave him a snapshot. Do you know that snapshot I gave him at the time is something data visualization can do for you? Something infographics, if you understand how to use uh, analyzing data sets, using a lot of Excel to just do snapshots to produce all these things, and maybe put in Canva or something, give him the way he wants, it would have done. But right after that day, I knew what I needed not to do. And I made it a duty to continue to improve on these things. How well are you embracing data analytics and interpretation? You can do the best financials, but if you cannot communicate to the right stakeholders, the users, it's as good as it's not useful. Data visualization, data analysis, data analytics lately has come in to help you with these things. How well are you scaling up in that aspect to get you to be the best accountant in your current day-to-day job? These are things we have to really take up seriously. Now let's talk about technology. I mentioned it earlier that some of us came from school, we didn't know any software. We've done a couple of years, we've still not improved on any software. If you are waiting for those of us that did not come from affluent backgrounds, if you are still blaming your father or your mother for not have trained you, or you are appreciating for training you to your bachelor's degree, the only time right now, if you want to skill up in a software, is not for you to go and blame your father or your mother. It's for you to identify your softwares to go and learn. Learn them. One thing with softwares is the moment you tell somebody is like a leader of a team when you are interviewing and you tell this person, I can work with this software. Why every employer is always keen to know which softwares you can use is it's easy for you to train someone who is already conversant with a software to migrate that knowledge to the next software. Most frameworks for the building of softwares come from the same background. So if you know how to use, let's say, Oracle Finance, or you know how to use SAP Business One, it's going to be easy for somebody to train you on SAP Business by Design. It's easy for you to quickly adapt that knowledge to understand Sage 50. It's easy for you to quickly take the knowledge of SAP Business One or SAP Business by Design, just adjust a few things mentally and grab QuickBooks. So everybody is always looking for how much of a software do you know? If you even if you understand a Tally 9 or Tally 11, it's easy to for you to quickly get the next. I train on softwares by standing to just watch a colleague. If I resume in any role, I just stand up behind anybody working, watch you operate it. Ask you three or four questions, sit back, make one mistake, correct it. Before the end of 3 days, I'm doing anything I want to do on that accounting software because I have transferable knowledge of softwares. I've used Bankers RAM, I've used Oracle, some modules of Oracle. I've used SAP Business One. I've used SAP Business by Design. I've used Sage 1000. I've so what did I do? Last 2 weeks, I had to quickly train on QuickBooks using Ally Accounting Professionals just to see how it works. Now I tell people, oh yeah, I can work with QuickBooks because I feel that confident. All right, yeah, I'll get to that as well. I'll get to that, Yusuf. Paul, please take note of that question. I will get to that. So, or let me just address it right away. So, for softwares, like if you look at like at every point, if you look at the cost of you going to train, if you go on YouTube, for instance, today, like QuickBooks, you see Hector Garcia is a CPA in the US. He's a he's a bookkeeper. So he has a full range of QuickBooks training. It's free. That's one resource. If you go to Allison, they have a course on some, they have courses, some courses on some of these accounting softwares. It's only those high level softwares like HANA, which is expensive. So those are high level, HANA, Oracle, and the rest that it can get quite tricky for you to get free resources. You get those resources to build your knowledge. And then you now see very affordable trainings like Elite Accounting Professionals who just finished the training. And one thing is, people like Elite Accounting Professionals, if you see them doing a training, nothing stops you from reaching out to one-on-one to the organizers of the training to say, hey, this is the stage I am in my career. I really cannot afford this. Is there any way you can structure some discounts or some promo for me? They have the discretion to tell you back end that, hey, yeah, everybody is paying 25, but since you made a good case for yourself, okay, let's see, I can give you this same course for, can you do 20? No, you make a case for yourself. I talked about being a client-centric accountant. This is one. As an accountant, if you see a training somewhere, especially of young upcoming accountants like Paul, who are from Elite Accounting, build a relationship with them by reaching out one on one. Your ability to negotiate a deal gently, politely to get things done for yourself is still what stands you out there in your career. But there's a guy I'll make reference to. If you didn't take Elite Accounting training for already, Hector Garcia has a full training on the use of QuickBooks, a full training that takes you through all the modules. If you are dedicated and you follow, there's another guy on LinkedIn who writes. He doesn't have videos, but he writes the steps. One guy from Kenya, he's a bookkeeper. He does bookkeeping virtually. I'll check his name up and put on the chat. He does that. He goes through the steps. So he can tell you when you have banking receipts, this is follow step one, click here. He does it with screenshots. If you are someone who is an avid reader, you can do that. But Hector Garcia shows you the videos. So you can actually get a free, a test, a trial version of the software, go step by step, get a data set and go step by step with him and have something to claim some beginner level. Once you are presenting your resume, you just present it that I have a beginner level of this software. So you are not claiming to be very proficient. You're only claiming I have a beginner level, which means you have room for training. Don't claim because we have a lot of people who claim to be experts, get into the job and fumble. But if from the door you've already claimed, I have a beginner level, they make room for to develop you. So Yusuf, that's how you can get some of these softwares. Now, if you are looking at having a future in accounting and you're already saying AI is coming to take your job, AI is going to come to take over routine accounting jobs. But AI is never going to take over, at least in the nearest future, not take over strategic stuff. So, like, for those of us that may not be aware, Microsoft has a course. Microsoft has a free training on Power Platforms. So I can't remember the link, but Microsoft trains, they admit periodically, they do about, I think about 4 or 5 weeks of training you on Power Platform. Automation and robotics have become a very big deal today in finance and accounting. So if you are looking at having a future right now that technology is really growing, and you are looking at enhancing your profile to be marketable, you can even sit in your home country and maintain a job in the US, Canada, Europe, any part of the world. You have to skill up in all these things. And you have a course designed on Coursera on robotic process automation by one of the biggest robotic companies. But if you check on it, it's somewhere the RPA. If you're looking at RPA, it's these are things that we need to start adding to our arsenal in plus the debit and credit we already have. So Microsoft has something on Power Platforms. If you're interested, please look it up. They will normally ask you to fill a form. You fill a form, they review that form and come back to you. And so they're always doing it like every 4 weeks or so, they take another stream, train you. So every week they give you assignments, they have videos, people who have already passed through that platform, Power Platform of Microsoft, come on, teach you. They give you all those things. Trust me, when I graduated from my community college here in Canada, we applied for a role to join. We applied for internship. Many of us, we had a lot of us were from Nigeria, and I have to give it up to most of these guys. They were really good. We were going for one position. What gave the guy an edge over all of us was when he actually indicated that he has trained on power platforms. I'm not talking of Power Query now. You have power platforms. So you are talking of robotic process automation and power platforms. These are things. So he had that training back in Nigeria. Before we came in here for school, he had finished that training. He had sat for a Microsoft certification exam. As when it comes to accounting, I feel till today that I am still better than him for the debit and the credit. But he had a robotics that I did not have. So he got that job I didn't get. I had to clap for him, bro. Good luck. He's there. He's finished the internship. They retained him. Running his job. So you could see that he came straight from Lagos, finished his studies because of how he skilled up himself, did his internship, and just continued running. No, but you can still see some persons who are with us here in Canada tell you that, oh, because you came from Nigeria, you're not skilled enough, so Canada is not rejecting you. Yeah, there are times it's not accepting you. There are times that happens. But you see how he was prepared. Opportunity came and he was prepared for the opportunity. I wasn't prepared enough. So it's on me to accept what I need to go back and do. I've been I've enrolled for that Microsoft Power Platform training already. I'm doing it, as well as the ones on Coursera. How well are you updating yourself for technology? Technology is not going to wait for you. It will keep coming. How prepared are you? How and now cybersecurity has become a big deal. I know for a fact that FITC in conjunction with Central Bank and all the commercial banks in Nigeria are running a free cybersecurity training in Nigeria. They run it for the entry level, that's for zero skill. They run it for, I think, 6 weeks. When you finish, that one is free. When you finish, you now pay a fee to go to intermediate level, which takes, I think, about 2 years. But by then, the chances of all the good hands being employed in the cybersecurity teams of these banks is very high. I think they recruit from that set they train. FITC has that program. I just can't remember the link. I actually started that training in Nigeria. I was on week 3 or 4 when my visa for my school came and I flew out of the country. For time zones, I couldn't make it. But all the banks in Nigeria have currently invested on cybersecurity training, free training. Look around for it. today, because data privacy, data security has become a big deal, Nigeria even has a bureau today that is focused on data information security. How well are you training yourself in that aspect? There's so much opportunity to thrive in that space. How well are you scaling up in your cybersecurity awareness? Your passwords, security. For most of accountants, because of low code, no code jobs, they go more into information security, policy. I think they have it as a risk and policy or whatever in cybersecurity. So when we hear cybersecurity, naturally our mind switches to coding, coding, coding. No, it's not just all coding. Take a moment today, speak with someone who is already in cybersec. They There are so many things to be done in cybersecurity. So when you hear cybersecurity, it's big. It's not something you as an accountant today has to understand for to advise your companies or wherever you might work or for your own personal development. You might end up realizing that you don't even need to be doing debit and credit every day as an accountant. Now let's talk about communication. How well do you communicate? We have a lot of us who when we don't even know when we start doing shebi when we're talking. I arrived in Canada here and I was talking to somebody who told me that a Nigerian went to who is in care in the care business taking care of the elderly. He went to an elderly person's house and couldn't speak English, was speaking pidgin, and told the elderly person that uh where he's coming from, there's what they call pidgin. And so that's what he was speaking. He could not speak the right English. So I just use that as a reference point. How well do you communicate? So many of us can speak, but when it comes to business writing, how do we write? How is your communication? How is your written communication like? How is your verbal communication like? And then how is your presentation skill like? These are three different things. Perfect these three. If you are at the entry level in your career, you might not even be doing a lot of written communication with high level management. But trust me, high level management starts paying attention to people at the base who they will bring into high level management right from the day you go through that door into any of your jobs. How do you write? When they write you a mail, do you do a one-liner because you don't know how to develop business writing? If you don't, nothing stops you from updating your skills. You need your written communication has to be top notch, has to be improved. If you have issues with it, please tell yourself the truth and improve on that because there are some emails, the tone of a message going out of your company represents the brand. So many senior managers are curious to see that. How do you write when, as an accountant, you're always having to do a lot of phone calls to people to chase your receivables? You are doing a lot of written communication to chase your receivable or even invoice submissions or different kinds of follow-ups. If you are heading audits, you are always having to do audit right exchange between yourself and auditors. So there's a lot going on. And then if you are going for tenders and other contracts, sometimes your chief executive takes you along to handle the financial side of presentations. How do you present? How do you keep people connected to you? These are things you should think about as part of your skill set. Now, let's talk about time management and then time management and organization. You see, how well do you walk into the room? Do you come for meetings? If you have a meeting at 2 o'clock, if it's on Zoom, how early do you sit there before the meeting? It should be on your system before the meeting time. I actually had to come in earlier as a way to kind of pinpoint this. Time management is very important. There are some deals you might walk into late and you've lost the deal. No matter what you say in that meeting, it's over. How do you organize yourself? How do you prioritize your time? There are so many accountants who are doing everything at the same time and delivering on none because they cannot prioritize their tasks and say, this is the time for this is the time for this, and all that. This is a skill you have to be that accountant who can actually politely tell your colleague, hey, yeah, keep the document you want me to work on, keep it here. I'll give it a look. I'm on this. You close out on this and you move to the next. Don't be the accountant that is doing everything at the same time. It will hurt you. It's a skill. You have to build it. If I ask us here again that how many of us are project managers? Most of us think that project management is just for engineers. But if they teach you about project management, you realize that in project management, even things like even things like changing the company logo, that's a major project with a dedicated project manager. Not to talk of changing your software, that's another major project. The implication is huge. So start looking at your role beyond just crunching numbers as far as project management. These are things. So if you don't have any understanding of project management, please, it's something you should start reading up today. Start taking some courses about them to understand all those methodologies like agile methodology. So read up on agile. If you can, develop your skill set on things like Six Sigma, lean management, where you can think about how to manage people, how to see the relationship between cost, people, processes. Where do they mix? So they help you when you handle certain major. If they give you something to deal with in the company, you can actually approach them as projects. And what kind of skills do you have? That's what you call elicitation. How do you elicit requirements from people? How do you talk to people to make them to open up to tell you what's their issue? You might change. Recently, I was not in the country, but I could see at some point most of our banks transfers were not going through and all that. Some people were definitely not going to sleep, down to even financial controllers. So how do you manage things like that? If you are doing a change, how do you handle a change project? To change name, today I'm reading that every major conglomerate in Nigeria is planning to move headquarters to Eco Atlantic. Those are big projects. If you are the finance person involved in any of these decisions, that's a lot to think about. Where is the server warehoused? How do you migrate this? How do you change invoices? How do you start communicating your new address to different suppliers? Everything is there. So as an accountant, start thinking of project management. Project management is just not only for engineers, it's for everybody. HR is involved in project management. Everybody is involved in project management. You only have your domain of specialization. So if you've all along been thinking it's only for engineers, please rethink today. If they are running a project, that finance domain is yours. If an engineer comes to fix a project that is having to do with accounting, he will need you as a subject matter expert. Why not be one yourself? Now, so it's there for us as well. Now, let me ask again, how many of us understand our businesses? So many of us as accountants cannot even talk about our businesses. All we do is crunch numbers. Give me invoice, I'll send. And go to pursue receipts and pursue remittance advice. We are operational. Don't be that operational accountant. Understand your business. Accountants lately are no more being those bad CEOs. Before now, many accountants used to take over very successful companies and kill those companies with because the natural instinct of an accountant is to think about how to cut costs or how to save costs, drive revenues. Finish. The accountants naturally were trained, were so cautious. We're always looking at the danger of every decision. So if you understand your business 100%, if you get to move from being an accountant to becoming a CEO, you'll be a good one. As long as you don't just wear only the prudence concept in accounting, that's where all of us, that prudence is what sticks to our brains a lot more. Prudence, 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 prudence. So marketing cost too expensive. Oh, don't fly, don't travel. Hotel cost is too much. Bah, bah, bah. Don't do community relations. Don't. Okay. How much do you understand your business as an accountant? In 21st century, so many businesses are, so many companies are operating with no fixed base. They just have a registered address. Everybody is scattered up all over the world. If you don't understand your business, how will you sell it? If we accountants are able to sell our business to anybody, it gives them a lot of comfort, especially how we speak about it. If I talk to you as an accountant and I see you scratching your head when you're talking about your company, the first people to know when a company is going under are accountants. So if I see you not exude confidence around your company's operations, already you've told me so much. I don't need to talk to you so much to know when there's trouble. You are not when accountants stop being proud of where they're working. Their body language gives you, they don't even understand so much of it. Sorry, the accountant should no more be just that person that hides in the back of the office. You can be there for confidentiality sakes, for information security sakes, but if you come out and you're customer facing, you have to still sell that business, develop that business acumen. It's something you need. I've been talking too much, so I'll just hit again on where we're going as accountants today, the future. Like like I said earlier, we have to think that AI has come to help us, not to take us out of business. AI will help you raise an invoice. AI will help you do a PowerPoint presentation. AI will help you do a lot of research or give you a benchmark. AI will help you pull information into one place. AI is here to be your friend, to help you grow. Use it. Now, how do you make decisions? So accountants are going to be a lot around strategy. Strategy. Like today, as an accountant, if you're an accountant in Nigeria, by today you should start asking yourself, now that Donald Trump is doing reciprocal tariffs, if you never knew before now, ask yourself, how much tariff has Nigeria been charging the US that is making US to charge Nigeria a 10% all along? So if you've never paid attention to Nigeria's trade relations with the US, pay attention to it because if your company for some reason has anything to do with such operations or your raw materials are going to be coming in from the US or wherever, you by now you have to be warning your executives how they make decisions. So you are involved in strategic decision making at this point. Don't be someone who, if your CEO comes, you can actually have a conversation with your CEO, your feeling about this, what you're suspecting is going to happen here. Okay, tariffs are going to come from the US today, and do we import from the US? No. Do we have anybody? You should be thinking of those kind of conversations today. By the time you take all those things and apply to the new Nigerian Investment Act that has just come out, you can actually have a good conversation with your CEO to give him pointers on so many things to be looking for. So the job of accountants today has moved 100% from just reporting to more of analysis. So we need to actually start shifting towards that financial analyst side who look at so many things. But while you are trying to do this thing, you need to have the skills. For instance, I know that these guys, the Brown Consulting is training, has this scholarship they give to people from the African backgrounds on financial modeling. Whether you like it or not today, if you cannot build a model, you should have the ability to interpret a model. You don't need to build all these things to be the expert if that's not your drive. But if you see a model, can you read a model? Can you connect with those assumptions? Because you might be there, they'll outsource the modeling. Those guys will come maybe from the Brown, do the model, be relating with your CEO. You sit in that meeting, you don't understand anything they're talking about. If you are lucky to sit in that meeting, because they might not need you. How do you build this? Victor Ogundele, who is one of those Nigerians who are very good with modeling, he's doing a mentorship program now. Get people to he does a mentorship program where he gets people, he meets with them every Saturdays, teaches them some of the modeling basics and all that. There are resources if you cannot get them. There are so many resources online, but those need a lot of discipline to sit down and self-train. But why not get involved with some of these free resources? Be that model. You can model. How many of us can sit on a software today or Excel today and do scenario planning and scenario analysis where you can tell your CEO, okay, if this happens like this is likely where it will go. Can you do some scenario planning? Those are things that will make you be the accountant of today and the accountant of the nearest future. It's because so much is happening. We're beginning to have a lot of data centers in Nigeria. Now, a lot of us are in Nigeria, but we don't even know there are data centers today. If those data centers are there, where is the data itself sitting? Is it sitting on those servers in Lagos or is it sitting on the cloud? Which part of the cloud is it sitting on? So those are things you have to start paying attention to. So I talk about making that point I raised about you not going to meet with marketing. Now, I will encourage everybody on this call, if you are not already one, please start looking at yourself as a business partner because you keep seeing finance business partner. What do they do? Basically, they are telling you that look, don't be the accountant that focuses only on accounting. Know your accounting and know the business. When you are with marketing, be useful to them. If you look at it today, most of the big corporations in the world, including Nigerian big businesses, they always have a finance person sitting in the other units. They have like budget preparation of maybe banks like First Bank, Standard Chartered, Stanbic, and the rest. They have people who are accountants who are sitting in IT. So when they sit in IT, over time, it's like when they speak, you are thinking, is this guy now a software guy or he's still an accountant? That's now a finance business partner. He has understood his finance, he's still in accounting, but now he's merged his accounting with some unique area of expertise. Don't just be the person that when marketing travels and returns, they give you receipt to do their reimbursement. That's all you do. Then you now record it in a software. Boom, ends there. When it's time for consolidation, another person, his job is to just bring subsidiary accounts, do intra-group, do intergroup, do all those things. Boom, present a consolidated financial statement without understanding anything about the business. Some of us as accountants, we don't even read the chairman's statement in a published account. The- that's a habit. If you are one of such accountants, please drop that habit. You read, understand your business, understand the current issues, understand the post-balance sheet event, understand all this adjusting and non-adjusting event. Those are things you need to have a full picture of. Be a finance business partner going forward. You create value because if you are coming in 8 to 5 doing basic, enter, go, enter, close, and go home, how much value? Then later you now want them to promote you to a certain level. Who is seeing your value really? Because you might be doing just what I can get one guy from the National Youth Service Corps, please there, train him for 6 months and he can do the same data entry. How do you want to grow? How much value are you adding? So add value to yourself, communicate insights. And another thing all of us have to bear in mind here is if you think regulatory agencies were like hawks on businesses, we're just starting. Regulations are increasing every day. Every day. Compliance is now that's why most companies are beginning to have compliance officers who, if you don't understand what compliance officers are doing, you just feel like, oh, they're just writing you emails, asking you, send me this, send me that. But the need for compliance right now is crazy. Pay attention to, for instance, look at what's happening with penalties, uh, to like you see the executive president of Standard Chartered Bank is currently in jail unless he just came out. He's in jail because of reporting of the bank. Financial statements, he doesn't prepare the financial statements, but he's gone to jail for false declarations. You're seeing KPMG is just paying a penalty for audit violation in the US. You are seeing issues here and there. You remember what happened then to Deloitte in Nigeria at the time for capitalizing expenses, paying 10 million naira penalty and all those things. Compliance is becoming a big deal. How are you paying attention to all these things? If you are looking at becoming very valuable as technology is getting more involved in our businesses and in reporting, you have to start paying attention to compliance issues. How relevant can I be there? Can I help to design controls? Like when I came here, right, my first role here, I walked in, first question I asked was, oh, where's your policy document? No policy document. I had to start talking, had to start putting together a guideline. They were doing the right things, but there was no documented guideline. I had to write one. Can you write a guideline today? If you cannot, fine. Can you start paying attention to read? Like as we are on this call, you can actually interact with some other persons who are maybe internal control guys. They might have draft documents. They can have some documents are too sensitive to share, but they have an understanding of how to write a finance guideline or a policy. What's a finance policy? What's a finance guideline? Understand all those things. How do you write guidelines that can meet up with FIRS, can meet up with if you're a publicly quoted company, Securities and Exchange Commissions, uh, then Financial Reporting Council. Pay attention to these things. These are not things that come overnight. There are things that you might work your entire career and never write, but there are things that even if they are not going to come your way to write, there are things you should know how they are written and the thinking behind them because you never know where you need to write them. Leverage technology for the future. How many of us are embracing? I talked about artificial intelligence, robotics, and all that. How well are we going to capture all these things? Improve on them. Improve on them. Cloud computing, very big term, very broad. It's just like when environmental accounting started in the US, we took it for granted back in Nigeria. A few persons trained for it. Today they are becoming the hotcakes. By next year, 2025, no, 2026, 2027, a lot of people who were trained in environmental accounting, which we today are calling ESG, environmental, social, and governance reporting, they are now becoming a big deal. How much of that expertise do we have? I need to talk about things like blockchain technology. That's very key. If all of us pay attention to the Nigerian Investment Act, NIA 2025 that the president just signed, it has recognized some aspects of cryptocurrency trading now that they will have to be trading on a publicly quoted market now. That's already telling you that regulation is going to start getting more intense towards cloud and blockchain technology. So, if you are beginning to talk about that, how well are you preparing to be there when there's time for all these things? Because a lot of us are not paying attention. We are going to start seeing a lot of things called smart contracts. Smart contracts are going to really come into play now, where blockchain puts together a contract. The moment we go into an agreement and certain conditions are fulfilled, the blockchain algorithm on its own puts together a contract for people to digitally sign. How many of us are paying attention to things like distributed ledgers, the whole accounting system behind blockchain accounting? So much is going on there. It's isn't exhaustive, right? But how well are we preparing for these things? Out here in the North America, developed more advanced countries, so much is going on there. They have structures. When you look at financial statements of companies like Meta and the rest, you see how much they have Bitcoin, blockchain technology is really infused there. Shares, everything is there. You see them, they're playing big. With an investment act in Nigeria coming on, you are going to start seeing those kind of things existing in our financial statement because people are going to buy. Now, companies are going to start doing reward system where personnel are going to get rewarded with maybe Bitcoin or some Ethereum or whatever they want to give them. As the accountant, are you not curious to know how smart contracts work? Because some states in the US have actually started signing off legally that, like in Arizona today, if you sign a smart contract, it's enforceable. Malta, Greece have started designing more policy frameworks already towards this. I think Nigeria has something going on already. How curious are you to pay attention? If you are not there, please pay attention. So much is beginning to go on there. So much is beginning to go on. It's something you have to know. And all accountants must not know how to code, right? But there are low code jobs. Just embrace them. I talked about them in cybersecurity. That's very big. Pay attention to it. I know um when I talk about this is a gold mine for those who develop expertise in the ESG space. ESG reporting, that's environmental, social, and governance reporting. There are so many frameworks around this where you're talking about the GRI, the Sustainable Accounting Standards Board, and the TCFD, the Task Force on Climate and Financial Disclosures. They have some of those things already in place. Nigeria has Nigeria has a an implementation program already in place, which I think by 2026 or 2026 or 2027, some companies can actually start doing self-adoption. They will first start with a certain tier of companies, then they will start with another tier. I think the medium and small scale enterprises will start their implementation, I think 2027 or 2026. How well are you, who is currently in practice? How well are you getting to terms with that? Do you want to be in the company? When it gets to that point, the company will pay KPMG money to come as the consultants for implementation because your company lacks in-house capacity. There's a framework for deployment already. It's only uh, public sector that doesn't have a date for deployment, but there is for self-adoption for private companies based on large and based on medium. How well are you scaling up? So there are so many things you make yourself invaluable to your company. If you're working in the right company today that is ready to develop you, please, ESG reporting is something you can actually start training for it today. You'll be an in-house resource person because to do that reporting, you will do your normal financials, then you come and do your ESG reports, which you submit to the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. They have a unit for these things today. They have the roadmap is already there. So it's not like we think. Just like how transfer pricing came and many people lacked in-house capacity, ESG reporting is going to come with lot. So Some of us, our companies are hiring KPMG, Deloitte, PwC as their statutory auditors. They will engage them for normal financial audit, then they will pay another engagement fee again for ESG reporting, where you are going to be calculating carbon emissions by your computers. You will report how much carbon has been emitted by every asset you have in place and all that whole thing. Getting get a grasp of this so that even if you are not the in-house resource person, by the time the report is coming back by the consultants, you will be the in-house accountant who can relate with them, contest some things and whatever, like how it normally happens. So the assurance, yeah, I just talked about it. So I think I've been speaking too much, so I I've said a lot here now. So I'll just give room if there's anyone who wants to add something to this or maybe ask me a question. We'll talk more about it. Thanks so much for listening to my rant. Paul? Hello, Paul.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Mr. Sampson, for that. In fact, I thought you are still speaking. I never knew that you will end it here. So, but
yeah,
like you said, it's not the end of the training, but just to give room for questions so that people can ask one or two questions and also contribute to the sections on the mindset and skills to thrive as a 21st century accountant. So if you have any questions, our participants, if you have questions, please, you can raise up your hand. Just you can see the icon button there. Just raise your hand, questions, suggestions, anything you feel like saying or asking to Mr. Sampson. I'll call you so you can unmute yourself and speak. Um, just raise your hand. I'm going to call you, and then you unmute yourself, and then you speak. I can see the hands of Samuel. Samuel, can you hear me? Yes, Samuel, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and speak.
I can hear you, sir. Good evening.
yeah. Good evening,
All right,
Samuel.
thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sami. Really appreciate your information.
Sorry, your
So
connectivity
much.
is quite poor. It's really breaking up, so I don't know.
Okay,
Yes, I don't think I can hear you clearly too.
No, it's really broken.
Okay, so Samuel, you can try maybe you no, it's still the same thing.
okay, okay.
No, it's not. So if it's quite difficult for you, you might just type in. If it's a question, you can type it maybe.
Yeah,
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 so
you can just type in the question. There's a question here on the chat box. Let me just read that out to okay, it says that from Yusuf, he says that for some of us in auditing section of accounting, how do we scale up in terms of reporting and giving opinion?
hmm. That's a great one. It's I'll try. I wouldn't say I have all the answers for this, but it like auditing itself, if you look at it now, I said something about compliance and reporting, right? So I know there's always that tendency for those in audit to feel like they're missing so much in reporting because the guys in reporting crunch the numbers. They in audit go review the numbers and express opinion. So sometimes most people in audit are feeling like, oh, I think I like what they do there. I could do it as well and all that. So it's uh it's something where within your audit today, I just started mentioning something on if it's reporting, I would say that you can actually, if you really feel the need today to move into reporting, you already have the basics of debit and credit. You've already reviewed financial statements. You know the steps all those reporting guys put in place to arrive at these numbers. If you feel so much need for you to go into reporting, and you feel you've already learned so much about this, then it's time you should start looking at how to move into reporting itself. Because one thing with reporting is it's always so difficult for you to come just collect reporting and become an expert on reporting. Even as a lot of auditors, people who move in from audit, their first few days in reporting can be rough for them. So, but reporting, you can improve reporting itself by doing it. You can improve, just like any other thing in life, you can only improve it by doing it. So if you're already in auditing, you've already seen the end product of reporting. You will go into reporting today. It will give you a rude shock, the pace at which things come, and you make mistakes. Like your first few days in reporting, when you get back, you will see that, like, if your colleagues who used to come to audit that company with you, when they come to audit your own reports, you feel very uncomfortable because they're auditing you and they're picking on exceptions. Why did your company write this like this? Why was this classified this way? Why was this impairment? Give us a schedule of how you computed your impairment. Give us your policies on this and all that. It hits you like a rude shock, but you get over it quickly. So if reporting is so much of interest to you, the best way you can scale up today is for you to find your way into reporting itself. Not, but as long as you are doing only audit, you always be feeling the need to try reporting. And you'll be seeing how you can get better. But you cannot get better than what you'll be even in the next 10 years. So, Yusuf, that's what I'll just encourage you to do. But there are so many opportunities for you guys who are in audit today to just keep diversifying today because you have seen what I'm talking about. ESG is an area I will encourage a lot of people to do because, and then for those who are members of ICANN, they just created, I think, the ESG faculty where they are targeting to keep training on. Now they're talking a lot about the frameworks around ESG reporting and all that, but the plan the faculty is having in place is to get to that point where they will train the faculty members or members of ICANN, I think, at large, and then subject them to certification exams. So they'll become certified, I think. They have those plans coming up, but they have a very good sustainability faculty. ICANN has a very seasoned team made of people from Deloitte, ex-Deloitte, and some other persons. So you can join up, and there are so many things around it that you can use to improve your reporting ability. I hope that addresses your concerns, Yusuf.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sampson. I hope that answers your question, Yusuf. I don't know if Samuel is available now. I'm not sure if Samuel is in this meeting, but if not, do we have any other question from anyone? Comments, question, contribution? You can raise your hand. I'm going to call you. You can type the questions in the group chat. If it's a question, you can type it in the group chat. I'll read it out. But if you want to speak, you can raise your hand. I'll call you for comments, questions, observations. Okay. I have a question here directly from YouTube.
Okay.
So the question says that as a finance professional, how do we undo both the technological, like how do we, so let me try to rephrase the question to for a better understanding. How do we, as an accountant, how do we bring in this technology? A lot of accountants find it difficult to transition. They see the transition as, oh, if I'm bringing, how do I learn all these things together with accounting? Is it that I'm leaving this accounting space and then I'm going into tech? Sometimes it's difficult because accountants, we are too robotic. We are too routine in terms of what we know and what we do. It's as if you are just stagnant. You are just so focused on one particular method. But when you see something that want to challenge you, that want to take you out of that comfort zone, how do we
Yeah.
put them together to still ensure that we still function at that pace and we become better?
Hmm.
So I think that's the question.
Yeah. I get that question. So there's a point I raised about curiosity and quest for knowledge that now, if you've never seen it, just look at it from this angle of there's this whole notion that AI has come to take over our jobs. Yes, AI is going to take over jobs. AI is still going to equally create opportunities for people who are better prepared. If you are someone who lets fear to be your motivation, just know that you have to embrace technology to stay afloat. That fear will be your driver. If you are someone who quests for knowledge and this whole question of what's going on around me today, if that's what drives you, use it. Every day, technology is coming on board. It's coming. So, have you ever, the why, the how should be how you keep training for it. Today, accountants, I was having a conversation with somebody. I said, when you go online today to look at jobs with like Amazon and some of these other big firms, you see that when you filter to finance jobs, you see even the way they describe their jobs is kind of different. It's kind of a mix of technology and accounting at various points because they already have. Imagine a brand like Temu or AliExpress or Amazon. They are not going to give you that volume of data to be crunching. So they've already had technology working with their finance. So it's about those guys or those personnel who can actually use that technology. You already have accounting here. When you hear the word technology, your mind is thinking, oh, nobody is asking you to go and build a robot. But if you understand SQL today, you're already preparing yourself to work in accounting or corporations that work with large data sets. A lot of accountants today are beginning to work in between accounting and business intelligence because if you as an accountant get to work as a business intelligence guy, you're able to play with numbers, understand those numbers either for market insights or for internal decision making, but you are able to connect it immediately to your balance sheet and your trial balance, You- which is something not many people who are not accountants cannot do. But you have that edge. So technology is not something you just crash it everything at once, one at a time. SQL, to what level can you manipulate SQL? Can you at least write basic queries to query a data set? at a time. As time goes by, you improve on it and get better. How many accountants today can work with Power BI to pull a lot of data, build a dashboard that as things are changing, they don't need to go back and do the same thing again. You cannot master Power BI in a day, but at least you can start. You can make mistakes. Get people who are seasoned in this to critique your published works. For you have Power BI, you have this other one, you can use them. All of these things, like the Power BI guys, Microsoft Power BI guys, they have a community where you can actually get data sets, practice what you've learned, put it up for scrutiny. The seasoned and more experienced guys will come on and critique you exactly on what you didn't manipulate right. So you are able to go fix those issues. But for every issue or for every critique, sometimes it's not an issue, but they're just telling you how you can actually present this better. If I give you the data of all Nigerian today, you see how what's going on in the US where people are coming to take the data of the federal government and in a split second tell you that there's waste here, there's waste there. It's because they understand the numbers. It might be right or wrong. I'm not even here to talk about they are right or wrong in what they're doing, but I'm just trying to emphasize on that ability to work with this. So, as an accountant, you have the core knowledge which you really need, which is that debit and credit and financial accounting, technical performance management. You have all of that. But start chipping your way into technology bit by bit by bit. It's not something you can do overnight. But when you see, if you see, if you are not running anything very active at that time, you can actually look for a program, maybe a boot camp that teaches you, or a very affordable boot camp that is free or affordable, just low priced with seasoned guys. Join it. They will teach you data handling that already you are beginning to understand the data analytics side of it. You can learn SQL. You are beginning to understand the querying side of it. Over time, you can actually start stretching yourself into Python because as you speak today, they've already integrated Python into Excel such that Power Query is already in Excel, such that some commands that you needed to do so much to produce data with Python integrated into Excel today, it's one or two queries you can put up and it will bring out just what you're looking for to take into your financial statement. So why not learn these things? There are things you can learn gradually. I'm still learning them as I'm talking about them. I'm still learning them. Like every day I'm in one, I'm joining either a boot camp here or there or there. Sometimes I'm looking for the free ones. If you go to my Coursera today, I'm on daily basis, I'm writing Coursera. Hey, I've seen this training on Coursera. It's a paid training. Can you give me a financial aid? Sometimes they waive it for me. Sometimes they say, okay, pay 75% of the training fee. I have them. Coursera has a lot of courses right now that you can learn on your own. You can go to Udemy today. There are some free courses that can give you an insight into some of this technology. So the technology we're talking about here is not something you need to just crash it. But as an accountant today, you need some basic SQL knowledge. As an accountant today, you need some Microsoft Power BI. You need them. You need to learn a bit on how Python is integrated into Excel today. Those are things that you need to learn because the volume of data today is getting really crazy. And I forgot to mention about opportunities even in the the artificial intelligence space for accountants today. The risk management side of it today, accountants will make very good people in tech. That's still technology. They're not going, that's a low code, no code aspect of technology. As an accountant today, if you understand risk management, why not research today? Why not research today to go and pick on things like all of us use ChatGPT, but how many of us understand the pricing methodology behind ChatGPT? Because most of us are using the free ones. We're using the free version. But for companies are using the paid version of ChatGPT. And they say that's OpenAI. Now, as an accountant today, if you understand the method, the technicality behind just the surface level technicality behind this, you can actually tell, just like when you were trained in accounting, they talk to you about make or buy decisions in management accounting or performance management. That's exactly what, as an accountant, you need to put before your management, because some companies are beginning to subscribe to OpenAI and some other AI platforms. But the question is, the more your data volume grows into maybe 10 terabytes and all that, is it still going to be cheap for your company? Or is it going to become more expensive that you cannot afford having put up your data on that platform? As an accountant, as an auditor, as a risk analyst, you see that possibility of you not being able to continue subscribing for to warehouse your data there. It's already a risk that you document now and tell your management, hey, I know we're considering to go on this platform, this OpenAI, this other one that caused issues lately, and Grok and all those ones. You can put them side by side, the pros and the cons of each. By the time our data gets to 1 terabyte, we cannot afford these people. We can afford these ones. We can afford this one. These ones are small, but their exposure is this. And for political reasons, we're exposed here. For data privacy laws, we cannot warehouse our data on this cloud. We have to be in this cloud. As a risk analyst, you're not computing any numbers here now. You're not doing any coding. But this is you telling the decision makers things about their decisions from a risk side concerning technology. You're not doing anything tech like coding tech, but you're in tech. That's you doing tech analysis now. So it means you have to understand technology to that level, because a lot of companies don't allow their corporations to keep their data on the cloud in another domain. Like you remember when X, which used to be Twitter, wanted to keep an office in Ghana to control Nigerian data. And the government was asking, give us access to the source code so that we can see. A lot of accountants were critical of the government because they did not understand the risk elements around these things. If these were things that if most of the analysts understood how it works, they would rather be applauding the government. In North America, within as close as most countries are here, you any if you want to sell a software to them, the first thing they'll ask you is, where is your server domiciled? Once it's out, your server is outside the domain of their country, they cannot buy your software because there's a regulation that prohibits their data to be kept elsewhere. So why? These are things, so you can function in tech, not even from a high coding area, but it's good to know the coding as well to an extent. If you are working as a project finance guy and is in tech, if your guys write a code and you're on a project team as a project controller, you need to start figuring to what extent do you control? Are you controlling only the numbers, or to what level do you control? So you see how there's a lot you can do, even in tech. On the execution side, I will encourage you to embrace things like SQL today because data utilization is getting bigger by the day. SQL, know it to some comfortable level. Your Excel, that's a no-brainer. Your Power BI, understand it. Understand your Excel, how Power Platforms, understand those things. So there are things there's so much to learn. Your life has to be on a learning pathway, like you continue learning and learning. Mentorships, like Anthony just said in the chat, is true. There are so many. Okay, I'll get to you, Anthony. So there are so many platforms you can get to. So let me just go ahead and talk about Anthony's question here, which he talked about where to learn some of these things. So um like there's this guy, Victor Ogundele. He's a financial modeler. You can hit him up on LinkedIn. There are so many times Victor has a YouTube channel that he has done a lot of free content on financial modeling that you can actually if you are truly dedicated, you can actually follow him gradually. He will show you the way into the modeling world. Yeah, Ogundele, Victor Ogundele. Vi- Victor Ogundele. Yeah. So you can actually ease your way into, let me just say, I'll type it here, Victor Ogundele. You can actually ease your way into areas like financial modeling. That's under the fun, like that. You understand whether it's something for you or not. SQL, you have a lot of guys like ah the resources for SQL are so many. For Excel itself, you have people like Leila Garani on YouTube. They teach you a lot. So for QuickBooks to continue to learn more based on what you can still look at people like Hector Garcia. Hector Garcia is there. Uh, you can learn on QuickBooks. For SQL, the resources are so many on YouTube, so many guys on YouTube that have a lot of schools. Then uh, you can actually do perfect. You can actually do some internship using this website called DeForage. Use deforage.com. Deforage.com. It gives you room to go into internships where there are so many big firms that have designed like projects, the kind of projects that they normally have for their like graduate trainees. Companies like Boston Consulting, Deloitte, and PwC, Switzerland, and all that. They have, so you can actually pick on like maybe accounting internships or investment banking internships, and you see when you apply and they take you on, they enroll you, you start getting projects that give you like a first-hand experience of what you would have done if you are working for them. So it stretches you to finish, but when you finish, you've added a skill. You have an idea on some of those things. So now you are even training yourself a bit, positioning yourself beyond just your local environment. So let's see. I'm trying to get some of these guys on Leila Garani for this. Like now you have a Leila Garani, she actually teaches Excel that fits accountants. Her her videos are usually for like she teaches you things for accountants. So it's not like general Excel. She has videos that she's done just for accountants. So these are things you can look at.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Sampson, for that question. I think I have two more questions here to go. I don't know
Okay.
if you have questions from the participants here before I read out the question I have.
No,
Do you have any question from?
I've addressed the one I had, so it's good.
Okay, okay. I can see the hands of okay. Toba, do you have a question? Toba, do you have a question? Because I saw that you wanted to speak. Okay. Elite colleague, you can go ahead with your question.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Hi, good
Yeah.
evening.
And I will first and foremost like to appreciate the tutor. Trust me, it has been a great journey so far. Though I didn't start with you, but then when I joined, I've been impacted already. So my question is, you said a lot of things as far as learning some policies are concerned. And majorly, you may mention about ESG. So I want to ask, what is the impact or is there any advantage that can be leveraged on by we accountants making use of accounting software? Can accounting software actually help us on a long run when it comes to financial reporting? And better still, another question I would like to ask regarding that is, most of us, we keep on learning every now and then, especially on YouTube. Me, for example, I've learned how to use Sage and I've learned how to use SAP on YouTube. But as I tell you, I've not actually practicalized it with the fact that the company I currently work with don't use George accounting software. So I'm asking, what will serve as an encourager or encouragement for we that we are willing to learn so many things, but then there is no avenue for us.
Okay. It's your line went it cut off. It cut off, but I think I got your question to an extent. So I don't know if you would want to come back and try to finish up the question. So I just
Can you hear me now?
yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
Okay. I was asking what uh what are the impacts of accounting software when it comes to making use of um, financial reporting on accounting software? What are the advantages that we can derive in using accounting software in reporting? And again, I have, for as many of us like me that are willing to learn a lot of things on YouTube as far as accounting field is concerned. Take, for example, accounting software. I learned how to use Sage and what's we call SAP on YouTube. But up to now, I've not actually practicalized it due to the fact that the current company I work with don't use Sage, does not use Sage rather. So what would be your advice now? Do we stop learning because there is no avenue for us to practice, or do we continue? What will you suggest? What would be an encourager or encouragement to us? Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks. Yeah. So that's a great question, really. It's So I'm going to give you this. It's more of this is what I think is the right thing to do, but it's arguable, right? So it's more of an opinion. I would say this is more like me selling my own approach to what you just asked to you. What you already know concerning any software today, if I take you and I start to train you on a completely new software, it won't even take you up to a week. You'll master what you need to get your job done. Because, like I said earlier, the frameworks for accounting software build, design is almost the same thing. They just launch them on different parts, different platforms, and they have a different interface and user experience, UI UX designs. That's just the difference. So your ability to adapt to the next software is going to be very simple. And for every good company, when they hire you, they train you. So you can continue learning these softwares, but with your experience and with the softwares you know right now, do you still want to make software learning your topmost priority, especially where you don't need it? Or you need to actually learn skills that right now it looks like with the changes coming, you need them at the front burner. For instance, I wouldn't sacrifice learning the new IFRS standard that has just been kicked in for insurance and the standard that has been kicked in for disclosures of financial statements, presentations and disclosures. That's what your profession right now needs. Number one. Where you're working today, you already know the software. The other one, any software you are learning now is need to know. Like, okay, it's good, I know it. You may never use it. You might learn all those softwares and never work where you need to use even one. You might even work where the company has been broken in such a way that you can only use one module. There are some companies you go in and you're using only the accounts payable or the general ledger module. You are not a super user. You don't even need the whole software. So that will always come up with time. But I'm talking of sustainability coming up. No company is going to have a way around it but to comply. It's coming. The pathway is already designed, it's already been disclosed. The implementation pathway is there. So why not channel that energy and learn towards that? So that even if you change employers today, the two or three or four employers that are going to deal with now are all people who need that skill. Why not take it? Global companies are already implementing most of those climate change related disclosures already. If you happen to get a job internationally, you've already gotten the skill that is relevant anywhere. So why not learn it? Why not put a bit of emphasis on more software, intensely learning the softwares too, most of these skills. Build up your SQL, build up your BI, build up your financial reporting expertise, build up most of those things. I think you can tone down a bit on the software side for now and get those low-hanging fruits because the level of expertise there is going to be a lot more. When you talk of climate change disclosure softwares, I don't think so many are out there. It's going to be a lot of you having interactions first. With time, maybe those things will come up, at least from that side, our side of the world there before. But over here is kind of something, the practice that's already gone further. So maybe they have more softwares and platforms for reporting. That's what I would say. I don't know if I kind of addressed your question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Sampson. You've actually addressed that question. Do we have anyone with questions among the participants?
No, not, I can't see any now.
Okay, so I have two questions here, but I think from your explanation of the previous two questions, you've been able to tackle one of them. So I wouldn't like to repeat that question again. So the last question I have here is on business operation. So from your conversation that we're having, the question goes to us that how can I learn business operation with my job role? So I perceive what this person is actually asking is, as an accountant, you have an office where you are seated and you are just carrying out your major functions. With such a busy schedule, such hectic work that you need to do on a daily basis, how are you able to, you know, with all of those things, how are you able to still learn the business operations in general, and at the same time learn the strategies that you can also implement with your job? I don't know if you get that question very well.
I get his question very well. The question is,
Fantastic.
the question I'll ask him or her is, does he ever hear any gossip in the office as busy as he or she is?
I could imagine,
Right.
yes.
You are busy, right? But when there's something going on in the office, like, hey, they're about to sack us and all that, you hear it. Channel that time to having a conversation. Like, you understand when you're an accountant, because you see invoices, because you see numbers, the moment you have a conversation with a process engineer, it doesn't take you time to understand what he's saying and connect it to your invoices. Like, for instance, you're in a trucking business, and or you are in a business where you have a B2B operations, like business to business, and you have an invoicing structure where maybe you are raising an invoice for a delivery, and there's an 80-20 split where you send one invoice to one client, but instruct the client on the face of the invoice to say 80% of this invoice value. Yeah, exactly. 80% of this value should go to this person, 20% should go to this person. Once you are holding that paper, the natural thinking in your head should be, why are we splitting this invoice? Why am I raising one invoice to go to one client, but I'm telling the client to pay 20% to this other company who is a third party entirely and pay 80% to me? The moment someone breaks maybe the contractual arrangement in place for you, you've already used one invoice to understand that there's a possibility that in this industry where you operate, you can actually invoice one client, but the client pays to two people, two separate entities. Then the why, the how kicks in. As that's from there, you can actually still have a conversation with, like, it doesn't take you time because all of as busy as you are, everybody just know that every unit is busy. Some happen to be more busy than others. Some have peak periods and non-peak periods. But every time you come in contact with people, that's where your personality kicks in as well. That's where the communication we're talking about comes in here. It doesn't take you time to stay with even a unit head of another team to say, yeah, sir, oh man, like, I know we're invoicing this or something. Like, how does it work out there? At their period where they are having a low activity period. They will just tell you, okay, this is what we do. We normally, this kind of client, this is how we deal. So the non-sensitive aspects of the business, they can break it down to you. If at the point of entry, during your induction, they had not done the detailed introduction of the business to you, but many structured companies actually, like when you guys are getting inducted, sometimes they get you to interface with most of the units. Some persons expose you to, depends on the size, depends on the structure. Some will actually, like people who go through a training school of a business, the company makes sure that they get to teach them about the whole business. But that's a different ball game when they tell you about it and when you start seeing it in practice, like this is why we're invoicing here. So sometimes you get to see, like when I worked in maritime, that was the first time in my life I heard the word back charge. I'm like, what's back charge? Like, so if I mention back charge in maritime, maybe back charge in another industry, the concept might be the same, concept might be different. You start hearing, oh, this is a back-to-back contract. So you see that in logistics, you start hearing terminologies like that, back to back. And so you start hearing those supply chain guys using different terminology. So it's just to, hey, when you guys call this word this, what do you mean? So you know the business overall, but now you are beginning to hear the different colleagues who do these things that begin to chip in here and there. With time, you now see when you hold an invoice, it makes more sense to you. You've connected all the dots already. You've connected. So you need to have that ability where every time you are having your lunch, you are having interactions with some persons at your level, like you are gisting, they're just telling you a few things about how they do things, what they do, why they do. As they're telling you those bits and pieces there, they're clarifying a lot of things that you normally see when you handle an invoice. So you start moving away from, so over time, and then your own supervisor as well, you should build a relationship with your direct supervisor where when your supervisor is less busy, the supervisor can actually explain the business to you a bit further than he would normally do. Like, hey, why do I've seen invoices come here, we've paid this, we've received this, we've got this, people did. So sometimes he just tells you, this is how we do this thing. He explains that to you, but it solves a lot of things. So don't just be someone that operates in a silo. Have a relationship with your boss as well. Sometimes step outside, step outside your comfort zone. Don't be that person that every time it's 5 o'clock, you abandon your boss in the office and go home. Sometimes your boss, 8 to 5, your boss is too busy. But that same boss is going to give that extra 10, 15 minutes your boss is going to, while relaxing, your boss is going to give you an extra edge in the industry by telling you a few things. It helps him to relax a bit, but every supervisor likes to see the staff that is curious to know a bit beyond the ordinary. If you want to be the 8 to 5 guy who doesn't care, some supervisors let it go like that. Some, when you give them the extra curiosity to know a bit more than what you currently do, they are willing to do. And that's how they start picking on some talents to start moving you across different units. Some start proposing you for promotions to certain responsibilities and a few other things that will come along. But that's it. If you've not been trained at the point of entry with a documented handbook and detailed stuff, this is how you tap into different people around your company and understand the business at large. I hope that
Thank you so
helps.
much. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Mr. Sampson, for that. And I can see the comment made by Richard. He said that aside from what Mr. Sampson has said, he said the person should also try as much as possible to understand the drivers of the business.
Yeah.
You know, the drivers of the business, very, very key.
Very, very key.
And very, very important. So I think we'll take no more question at this junction. For me, I've been well equipped today, you know, so I've been really I've gotten a lot of values from today's section. You know, a lot of things were just coming, and I really want to appreciate Mr. Sampson for this valuable insights. You know, these are things that I tell you, whether you like it or not, they are mandatory for us to do. What you have said, if you fail to do them, you just discover that you become that archaic accountant in what? You know, you see your colleagues doing certain things, and you begin to wonder, why is it that I'm not doing things like this, or why is it that these people, how are they able to manage all these things? And truly speaking, these things are not difficult to do. You know, it's not built in a day, but the best shot is to start. You know, when you start these things, just little by little, take up these ones, just put them. Before you know, within 1 year, within 6 months, you discover that you've put a lot of skills together that can equip you as a 21st century accountant. I really want to appreciate everyone who have decided to participate in this training. I know some of us, some people joined via YouTube, while some joined via LinkedIn. And I think I've gotten a lot of messages that says I should share the contact of the guest speaker. And that is why I went ahead to share the LinkedIn profile of Mr. Sampson. So if you really want to connect with Mr. Sampson, even after this section, you can reach out to him on LinkedIn. That's his LinkedIn profile. And then that's also my own LinkedIn profile. If you want to connect with me after this section, you can reach out to us via LinkedIn. And for those of us that also missed today's section, the recording will be placed on the YouTube channel. So you can always go back to watch the video at your leisure time. So thank you very much. Thank you for this section. Mr. Sampson, I really appreciate you. Thank you for squeezing out time for us, even with your busy schedule. We do not take it for granted, and we really appreciate your efforts so much. And so we have nothing else to do, nothing else to say. This is Elite Accounting Professionals. Like you said, we have trainings that we do here. You can also connect with us, connect to learn more. We are a community of accounting and finance professionals. We are always there to assist one another, to learn from one another, and to build our networks. You know, so you can always, at every point, connect with us. So I'll be hanging up the call now. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate your presence in today's section. I remain Otonio Paul. Do enjoy the rest of the weekend. Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.